How y'all doing? You're with the host, Maurice Kennard, CEO of SLOWMOED. Thank y'all for taking the evening to join me. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe. We got a pretty exciting live stream today. I'm sure some of y'all have been waiting. We're going to address the etymological errors made by Cheikh Anta Diop. Excuse me. There we go. We're going to go over the Cheikh Anta Diop's, or Diop, etymological error that is a very huge error, in my opinion, as it relates to the dark-skinned people, especially in the Western Hemisphere. If you all are familiar with the etymology of the word moor. So we're going to dive into that. I don't want to take any more time away from you guys, but we will first start with, let me show you the book title so we can get right into it. The first book is going to be by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, Golden Age of the Moor. If you all can see that book title right there. We're going to start with this because I believe this was a great error that was made by one of our most respected scholars, African scholars. And it needs to be addressed because there has been a lot of misinformation shared amongst the Moorish community, or the dark-skinned community, or the people that have Moorish knowledge, but they are not espousing it to the black people. Well, let's just say this just to clear up. They're not, the people that know this information, they're not espousing it to the so-called black people, Negroes, African Americans, Afro Americans, niggas, and the rest, the people with dark skin, let's just say that, in the Western Hemisphere. So let me continue to the citation. There's multiple various citations. Let me know if y'all can hear me fine. I don't have any music playing currently, but we're going to start on page 6 of Golden Age of the Moor. Page 6. Okay. So let's start on page 6. Right here, we're going to start on the second paragraph. It says, in his discussion of Berber ethnic origins, Jose Pimentel Bey cites the views of Cheikh Anta Diop on the matter of the Moors and the Berbers. However, Diop, or Diop, is not particularly helpful. It is refreshing that Bey sees this very clearly and qualifies his support. Although he cites the master with respect, he does not follow him. Diop, or Diop, makes the unsupportable claim that the Berbers were post-Islamic invaders. His uncharacteristically uninformed commentary on the Moors led me to delete this section of his otherwise remarkable paper, which it was my honor to read at the Nile Valley Conference held in Atlanta, 1984. Okay? Now let's go to this second quote on page, let's see, I think it's 96. The one, give me one more. Not 96. We're on page 187 by Jose V. Pimentel Bey. So it says, we're at the top of the page. All right. So it says, I was a bit disappointed with Dr. Diop on his brief assessment of the Moors. For a man who so often analyzed words and their significance, Diop failed to address the etymology of the word Moor. Wayne B. Chandler, in his essay, The Moor, Light of Europe's Dark Age, informs us that the English word Moor originally comes from the Greek adjective mauros, which literally means black or very dark in color. The Romans would later adopt as a reference for the black-skinned inhabitants they encounter in Africa. Again, we recall that it was the ancient Romans who called the entire region of Northwest Africa Mauritania. Needless to say, this translates from the Latin as the land of the black-skinned people. Okay, so let me continue just this little part. On the issue of the Moors coming originally from Yemen in the 7th century, Diop himself tells us that Yemen was a Negro Ethiopian colony and remained so until the birth of Muhammad. Okay, so unfortunately, Cheikh Anta Diop made an etymological error on the etymology of the word Moor or mauros, the Greek term, and mauri, the Roman term. So that was from Golden Age of the Moor. Right now, I would address the book by Jose V. Pimenta Bay, Othello's Children in the New World, where he goes a little bit deeper into this, but the significance of this error was not in bold like some of the other things, which me, in my opinion, I believe this issue should have been magnified because there are various African or Pan-African scholars that are seem to be unfamiliar of the etymology of the term Moor. And we're going to get into that. This has basically crippled the blacks or the dark-skinned people in the Western Hemisphere that are, let's say, fluent in English. So on page 26, we're going to start right here. I went over this in the previous live stream, but this one, we're giving a magnifying glass on the specific topic. So, Jose V. Pimenta Bay says, Diop's assessment of the Moors is far too brief to offer sufficient insight into the origin and complex history of peoples identified by that title. Characteristically, Diop would analyze words and their significance, but in this case, he actually failed to address the etymology of the word Moor. So, yes. But in spite of his initial effort to delineate the Moors from Africa by linking them to the Arabian Peninsula, Diop's assertions, actually do more to show the historic Africanity of Arab peoples. Okay. So that was from that book showing the error. This is, in my opinion, this is a very dangerous error. Now I'm going to be quoting from Cheikh Anta Diop's The African Origin of Civilization, Myth or Reality. This was written in the 1970s, 1974. And this has really crippled the dark-skinned people in the West Hemisphere, specifically that speak English, because there are African and Pan-African scholars and Black scholars that have somehow made an error of a linguistic and etymological error on the word Moor and how it applies to the current day dark-skinned, swarthy people in the Western Hemisphere, and their origins tracing back into Europe and back into Africa as well, because they're both intertwined. And this goes in line with history This simple error by Cheikh Anta Diop, who is a renowned scholar and has basically went up against UNESCO and defeated them by proving that the Egyptians had dark skin. Now, this error has made confusion because he used the term black, and the people in the Western Hemisphere that are calling themselves black in the year 2025, they have been brainwashed and they don't understand African Moorish history and their connection to African Moorish history. It's jumbled up, and those that are going by these titles of or these labels of black, African American, Afro American, nigga, Negro, these terms of endearment, etc. In law, it makes them non-descendable. And law, it doesn't connect them to, they're basically numb the gears. For more on that, you all can reference Taj Tariq Bey on YouTube. He goes into numb the gear and basically labels. So my point being, this has crippled the black community by 60 to 100 years. This has crippled the dark-skinned people in the Western Hemisphere. It has severely crippled them, this simple etymological error, because majority of these black African scholars, they're continuing to promote the black agenda, which is, we already understand that the ancient Egyptians had dark-skinned, swarthy skin. However, these African and Pan-African and black historians are calling them black. And that's a German term being applied to the dark-skinned, swarthy people. Before the word black existed, mauros existed, Kemet existed, centuries before black was even a term. So we're going to go into Cheikh Anta Diop's assessments on the Moors and give some more context. So this is the ebook version. The page is 95. Let me go to the chapter to give you. So we're in chapter 3, modern falsification of history. So we're going to start on this page. As for the Moors, they descend directly from post-Islamic invaders who, starting from Yemen, conquered Egypt, North Africa, and Spain between the 7th and 15th centuries. From Spain, they fell back on Africa. Thus, the Moors are basically Arab Muslims who installed in Africa, whose installation in Africa is quite recent. Numerous manuscripts preserved by the principal Moorish families in Mauritania today, manuscripts in which their genealogy is minutely traced since their departure from Yemen, testify to their origin. Moors are therefore a branch of those whom it is customary to call Semites. What will be said about the Semites later in this volume will dispel any possibility of making them the creators of Egyptian civilization. Like the Berbers, the Moors are hostile to sculpture, whereas Egyptian culture attached great importance to that artistic manifestation. In the same chapter, the racial admixture of the Semite will be stressed. To this, rather than to climate, the color of the Moors should be attributed. Moreover, whether it be a question of mummies or living persons, there is no possible comparison between the skin color of the Moors, even tanned by the sun, and the black Negro complexion of the Egyptians. Drop any questions on this live if any of you are have any questions for me. This is impromptu, so basically going off top of the head. All right, and we're gonna start this later quote in the book. Let me go. This is in chapter 9. Peopling of Africa from the Nile Valley. Okay, So we're going to go to right here where it says Origin of the Moors. Of course, this is the ebook, but this would be page 326. So it says here, Origin of the Moors. The Moors are Arabs. Recent arrivals from Yemen, having come from the Islamic invasion 7th century, as already indicated, there are numerous manuscripts that carefully reproduce their genealogy, and the day of their departure from Yemen fully prove this. The Moors produced these manuscripts on any occasion. They are certainly not ignorant of their origin, which they know down to the smallest detail. Their testimony must be taken seriously. It is useless to disregard those manuscripts and try to find origins and antiquity on the African continent, which the Moors do not have, merely to make them a part of the hypothetical white race that supposedly settled Egypt early, only to disappear gradually after a long period of crossbreeding. Okay, so in Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's book, Golden Age of the Moors, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima basically mentions that the Berbers are the true Moors. Stanley Lane Poole, in his book, The Moors of Spain, The Story of the Moors in Spain, Stanley Lane Poole says that Berbers are the proper Moors. Now, Ivan Van Sertima, in his book Golden Age of the Moors, says that the Garamantes are the true Moors. Now, the Garamantes can be traced back into the interior of Africa, correct? So, Cheikh Anta Diop's assessment of the Moors is an error, and Dr. Ivan Van Sertima is one of the scholars that looked up to Diop, or Cheikh Anta Diop. And it's unfortunate that this error was made because it set back the people in the Western Hemisphere by 60 to 100 years because this error, unfortunately, a lot of people looks up to Cheikh Anta Diop all across the world because of his research and his contributions to the dark-skinned people all over the world. However, the black people in the Western Hemisphere, as far as the year 2025, Common Era, have been brainwashed of their African Moorish contributions to civilization and the sciences, the various sciences, and it's making events occur. For example, in the early portion of the year 2025, where there have been conflict between the Black Americans in the United States of America and the Africans in South Africa and various other parts of Africa. For example, recently, and I believe April or May of the year 2025, Common Era, there was a dispute between the South African parade located in New Orleans, New Orleans, Louisiana, I believe. I could be wrong. But Louisiana, let's say Louisiana, there was a parade where it was blackface and the various attire worn by the performers in the parade were South African. And there was multiple debates on social media where there was division and schism between the so-called blacks, African Americans, Negroes, Creoles, niggas, etc., in the Western Hemisphere, and between the South Africans, the Bantu, and Bantu. So there was schism between like where the origin of gumbo, if y'all are familiar with okra, where gumbo comes from, And during that time, I was taking a course in humanities at a community college, and we had went over the Africanisms between the Africans and the African Americans of the current day. And there's a book, I can't think of the name right now, but if I'm able to pull up the reference, I can go straight into it. Let me see if I can pull up the reference. This is Ampru 2. So this is basically, this isn't this says I don't have a list somewhere. I'm not looking at a list. I'm basically going off of memory. So basically, there's been confusion. There's some, here we go, Africanisms in America by Joseph E. Holloway. And let's go. Excuse me, don't mind the silence. Okay, here we go. So Africanisms in American culture, page 102. You see right there. We're gonna read right there where it says okra. Okay, okra, Bantu, King Gobo okra, main ingredient of gumbo, food plant indigenous to Central Africa and brought to the New World by enslaved Africans, known to most Southerners by 1780s. Okay, so there has been confusion, like there have been division between the African Americans and the Africans, unfortunately, because the African Americans have been brainwashed by European colonists, secret societies, and also their own people. For example, a lot of the infiltrated moorishsciencetemple of American organizations, Nation of Islam, unfortunately, and various other orders, Prince Hall Masons, etc., fraternities, Greek fraternities. There's been a brainwashing to hide the Africans, the African American connection to the Africans and their African Moorish history. They've been brainwashed, unfortunately. Yeah, I know it sounds like a movie. I know it sounds like science fiction, but it's the truth. And if conscious Moors or conscious dark-skinned people try and tell this to the African Americans that are sleeping or brainwashed, then it's like a ridiculous, it's like it's ridiculous. It really is. And this is why this video is being created, because on YouTube nobody is putting out this information. People in the Moorish Science Temple isn't putting out this information. They just want to recruit more dark-skinned people that are brainwashed into their group so they can be brainwashed some more by the Moorish Americans, etc. So there's confusion. And let me dive in. Let me give another let us continue on our subject. I will get to that. I'll reach that point in the future of this video. But I thank y'all for watching up to this point. Drop a comment if you have any questions. Feel free. This is Ampru 2. I might be pronouncing that Ampru 2, whatever. So we're going off the top of our head, and I'm trying to get to, I don't have Facebook on here. Okay. So let's do it this way. Let's go to, okay. All right, let's go here. So continuing on to Cheikh Anta Diop's error on the Moors.
Before the Moors went.
We have this video by, this is on YouTube, this is on Facebook. So I don't know if you can see that name. Screenshot if you can. But his name is Tafari X Afriques. Tafarix Afrique. Screenshot that if you can. Okay. We're going to go to this video by Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan. Joe Cannon.
This guy, before the Moors went into Spain and Portugal, they had gone in there with another title. They went in there as Carthaginians. During the time of Hamilcar Barca, his son Hasdrubal Barca, and Hannibal Barca. Hannibal Barca is the man that is still studying at West Point. They were the first man to bring what was called mechanized army warfare, not using cars and trucks, but using the elephants as a ramrod with his troops. That's being studied, as I said, at West Point. Before the Moors went into...
Okay, so that's another addressing by Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan, basically showing that Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop made a critical error in the Black Americans' history, a critical error, and this has set us back 60 to 100 years because it's some critical information that the Black Americans need in this current year. And many people that are in these secret societies and in these Moorish science temples, they understand this information, but they're not saying nothing. So I have my platform to espouse this knowledge, and as we continue to grow, it's going to get even in detail. So I need y'all to subscribe. We're using African Moorish knowledge, science, and wisdom to create portals, something that's never been done before in this human history as far as the year 2025 common era. So we need you guys to support our channel as quickly as you can. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and we haven't been having any subscribers as of late. I need y'all to share this out to your associates, share our videos out to your associates. We got a playlist. We have a playlist, excuse me, on our live streams. We got a playlist on our slow-moed Moorish portals. We have an official website. We have a clothing brand. We write blogs, and we have future endeavors that we eventually plan to put out. But we need you guys to subscribe because we can reach our intermediate goals faster, and we can reach a plethora of people in a shorter amount of time. So now that was Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan. So as I said, like this, one of these Pan-African Black scholars should have addressed this, because we wouldn't have been so brainwashed up until this point. This is a critical error, and it's a huge blunder. If you guys are familiar with chess, this would be a huge blunder to the dark-skinned people calling themselves Black, African American, Negro, colored, etc. This is a critical blunder, and this isn't science fiction. This is brainwashing. And I can't put it any straightforward as that. It's a critical issue, and instead of a lot of these Moorish teachers on YouTube and a part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Roundtable, and all this, they're not addressing this. This is critical information. This is more important than how Sabir Bey would say that Egypt was called Al-Fasad. This is more important than that, because it's dealing with historical evidence that needs to be addressed, and they're not addressing it. They're too focused on these Arabic words and Allah, Islam, these secret code words. Yeah, I get it. Allah means arm, leg, arm, head. Yeah, I get it. Islam means, the acronyms mean I, self, law, and master. but that teaching goes all the way back into Kemet before Arabic was a language and before we had English alphabet or Greek alphabet. So we need to set this straight because you got African scholars, they don't want to connect to African Moorish history. They don't want to connect to Moorish history. So it seems like they're just skipping over the Moorish period. So the blacks are confused. They don't know what to research. They don't even know if they're Moors. They don't know if they're Indians. They don't know if they're Native American. They don't even know. They don't know the origins of humans, where humanity come from. They don't know where the origins of Homo sapien come from. Mm-hmm. They don't know what happened during the transatlantic slave trade while they were being enslaved, that their ancestors were fighting against the European powers, enslaving the Europeans while they were being enslaved. They don't even know that history. They don't even know that the Moors brought Latin into Europe. They don't even know. Like it's ridiculous, and people are they're remaining quiet about this, and it's ridiculous. I don't know what other word to say besides it's ridiculous, and I need more subscribers. So share this video out, and and it's kind of sad that I have to find humor in this because it's like, I don't know, like there's no key to this. There's no answer, and then nobody's saying anything. So it's really ridiculous, and and many people know this information, but they're just not saying nothing. And it's like they don't care about the future generations. They don't care about people's lives, because this plays a part into current modern day events and future events. It's very unfortunate, and this needs to be magnified. This is the critical error on the blacks. This is why shows like Jesse Lee Peterson can make fun of the blacks with impunity while, make a living off the black sufferings, and it's okay. That's not, no. This has been a huge blunder to the blacks. A huge blunder.
Look at this. You're playing with a prepaid card.
I'll show you a video by Jesse Lee Peterson.
In its relationship to ancient Egyptian literature, I'm the person that you want to talk to, because you'll learn things that no one else can really teach you.
So I'm gonna try and look for this this exact phrase, but this was a video between Shaka Asa Moses joins Jesse Lee Peterson. This is The Fallen State on YouTube. And I'm gonna show you a clip where Jesse Lee Peterson basically says he's black and he's slow, and Shaka Moses, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like it's, I don't know. Like it's really I don't know. I'm like, I don't even know what to say. Like, that's how ridiculous it is. I don't know the exact timestamp, so bear with me, please. You know what I'll do? I'll copy this link and see, like I said, this is impromptu, so I don't have this written on the list somewhere. I'm just going off the top of my head and freestyling, basically, and just sharing information with you guys. I'm finding their exact quotes so that you all can go back and do your research. Give your input on this. This is a non-judgmental zone, so we accept criticism. We accept questions, all that. All that is welcome here. All that's welcome here. We answer questions to the best of our abilities. I don't have a producer, so it's just me in the lab. I'm trying to find this quote. Black and slow.
Yeah, give me a short, because this is just making my hair hurt.
Okay, no, no problem.
I'm black and slow, so I totally don't understand any of what you just said.
Don't worry about it. I'm black and 3 times as slow. So, that's why I told a friend of mine the other day, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I can definitely learn from Jesse Peterson. And either document it.
Who knows this?
Who knows this?
Yeah.
Eventually culminated in a West African locale, but they actually...
So we're starting at the 7-minute mark on the same video.
Know the roots. They literally know the roots and the stopping points that they took, and these are documented.
Who knows this?
Who knows this?
Yeah.
People who study history, people who study migratory history of ancient, of various continents, but particularly Africa. So if you study, I'll give you, if you want a text to read, a good book.
Yeah, give me a short, because this is just making my hair hurt.
Okay, no, no problem.
I'm black and slow, so I totally don't understand any of what you just said.
Hey, don't worry about it. I'm black and 3 times as slow. So, that's why I told a friend of mine the other day, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I could definitely learn from Jesse Peterson. I learn from anyone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, the text to read is a book called Exiled Egyptians, Heart of Africa. Now, the key thing that you need to know about this book, where it talks about these migrations, and it's not the only text, but it happens to be my favorite text that highlights these migrations. The thing that's important to remember about that text is that it's not written by a black person. So it's not a black person that's cheerleading migrations out of the Nile Valley into West Africa. It's actually written by a modern Egyptian national by the name of Mustafa Gadala, who graduated from Cairo University, born and raised in Egypt. So this is not ethnic cheerleading or some imaginary ethnic cheerleading being promulgated by African Americans. So this is literally from a modern Egyptian national who is promulgating this. And then you have other people who were born and raised in Egypt that also have written literature. Robert Bouval is another one.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Let me ask you this. Black people in America, at least, don't normally read. They don't research.
Pay attention.
They're just, and not all, but most, right? They are followers and not individuals. And so they don't research for themselves. Knowing all what you just said,
yes.
How you expect to get that information into them when they don't even care about that kind of stuff? Because it's so much, and they're definitely not going to read unless you put it on TV and make it a comedy or something. They're not going to even pay attention to it. So how
look how you laugh.
You don't read all that. They don't feel like even thinking about that. How you expect to help them when they don't care? They don't research.
The podcast support.
That is a prime example of what I'm talking about.
Zoom just makes my
Right?
podcast sound like it was recorded at the bar.
Okay, so what I try to do is I try my best to not cater to or subscribe to tropes. I think
You said trope?
tropes, caricatures of people that stereotype,
Oh,
right? And I think because when we do that, we're missing an opportunity to actually accomplish what you just finished talking about, which is getting the information to the people. A large part of it has to do with there's so many things. It's a very there are very complex reasons why Black people are the way that they are, or the way that we are. I try to be careful with my pronouns, you know. Yeah, I really do. So because people be like, "Why are you talking about they? You're one of us," and I am.
know, I do that a lot.
I'm conscious of, yeah, but you know something. And
they want you to be a part of the mess.
Well, you know what? we are a part of the mess, and I think that
I'm not a part of the mess. I used to
actually
be
you
a part.
are. Actually, no, you are a part of the mess. I'm going to share something with you. By separating ourselves, what we end up doing is we end up taking an elitist attitude towards our own people.
But that's not how I think, though. I just think the blacks are messed up because they're so brainwashed and demoralized and brainwashed and government control, people control. They just don't know what they're doing. And at one time, I believed in the lies from the civil rights movement, so-called civil. And so I know what it is to be brainwashed like that, but I overcame it. And most black people would never overcome it.
I don't know.
So that's why I don't know how you're going to help them with all this information, man.
I don't know. I sometimes wonder what kind of company you keep and where you go, because
So it's quite ridiculous. Shaka Moors could easily went to African Moorish history and that connection to the African Americans. But unfortunately, he's only geared towards ancient Egyptian culture. And Jesse Lee Peterson understands African Moorish history, even though he's not mentioning it. As you can see, he's clearly able to make fun of the blacks. And if you pay attention to Jesse Lee Peterson, if you watch his body language, he'll look to his producers in the background when he makes a pun. So if you watch his body language, when he laughs, he's laughing with his peers while they're in the background making fun of, probably giving him the questions to ask who he invites on his show. So this is what the dark-skinned people in the Western Hemisphere and even in the diaspora are witnessing if they are unable to connect to the African Moorish connection. If they're unable to connect to what happened during during the transatlantic slave trade, the Spanish Inquisition, and the Crusades, and their connection into that, then they have been brainwashed heavily. And for example, by Cheikh Anta Diop's critical error on the etymology of the word Moor, this has clearly and unfortunately hindered the dark-skinned people in the diaspora. And I felt the need to address this because from what I can see, from what I could search, from what I can research, I was unable to find anything anything regarding this over the internet, besides in the books of Dr. Ivan Van Sertima and Jose V. Pimenta Bay. No other African, Pan-African, or Black scholars have addressed this, and it's an issue. We have to clear this up, and I will use my platform to espouse some of the remedy and some of the knowledge to look for those answers. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this live stream. This is not all the information I've gathered, but I'm saving it. But it covered the critical issues. I'll just say that. I didn't leave anything on the table. It covered the critical issue of the etymology of the word Moor. As I've shown in the previous videos, y'all probably getting tired of me saying etymology of Moor. Y'all probably getting tired of me repeating it like a parrot. But just look up the etymology of Moor, mauros, mauri, and its origin, because it meant dark-skinned people. By the Greeks, by the Romans, before English, not before Arab. 1,000 years before Arabic was, I'll say 1,000 years before Islam was started. We'll say that. So, yeah, it's quite unfortunate. Make sure y'all support our channel, subscribe to our channel, buy our merchandise. It's available on our official website. This is our logo. I thank y'all for tuning in. And I will see you guys next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we will get back to creating these slow-mo Moorish portals for you guys. And we have some very exciting things in the future coming to you in due time. Till next time. Peace.